Greetings of the day, KMC. It's an honor to welcome you all to this exciting and enlightening session. I, Aviral, and Harsh will be your host for today. Dakshi, Disclosing Ancient Knowledge Systems and Heritage of India, is a movement that aims to rebuild our ancient Indian knowledge system. Dakshi's main work involves writing research papers, articles, journals, releasing annual magazine every year, conducting speaker sessions and heritage walks.
ज्ञानपर्व दाक्षी का वार्षिक कार्यक्रम है जिसमें पत्रिका विमोचन और स्पीकर सत्र होते हैं। मैं ज्ञानपर्व 2024 के दूसरे सत्र में आप सभी का स्वागत करता हूं। पिछले सत्र में प्रोफेसर मीनाक्षी जैन ने दर्शकों के साथ अपनी बहुमूल्य अंतर्दृष्टि साझा की। इसके साथ ही हम अपने अगले वक्ता प्रोफेसर आनंद रंगनाथन जी के साथ ज्ञान के इस पर्व को आगे बढ़ाएंगे। शुरू करने से पहले मैं आप सभी का धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूं कि आप इस ज्ञान और विकास की यात्रा में अपना समय निवेश करने के लिए यहाँ एकत्रित हुए। अब बिना किसी देरी के चलिए सत्र शुरू करते हैं।
A speaker for today needs no introduction, but I am privileged to introduce a few milestones of his incredible journey. So please welcome Dr. Anand Ranganathan. Dr. Ranganathan is a scientist and a professor by profession currently in Jawaharlal Nehru University. Apart from his public debates and speeches that we all often enjoy, he has an impressive educational background. Dr. Ranganathan has obtained his BSc Chemistry honours degree from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi, after which he went on a scholarship to Cambridge, United Kingdom, where he obtained his BSc, BA in Natural Sciences, his MA and even his PhD. Dr. Ranganathan writes and appears frequently on special stage debates on politics, media and science. His columns have appeared in Swaraj, DNA, NL, First Post, Quartz. He is also the consulting editor of Swaraj. Apart from this, he has authored 5 books: The Land of Wilted Rose, The Rat Eater, Soffle, and his most famous book, Hindus in Hindu Rashtra. His forthcoming book is on India's forgotten scientists.
अब मैं हमारे प्रिंसिपल प्रोफेसर दिनेश खट्टर जी और दाक्षी के संस्थापक अक्षत कुमार भदौरिया जी से अनुरोध करना चाहूँगा कि वो डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन को सम्मानित करें।
Now I would like to invite Arnab to present a portrait of Dr. Ranganathan.
I see a double chin here, but 5 years back.
सर रूम में मेरी क्लास लेके आ रहे हैं।
So moving forward, the topic of the session is India on the path of becoming a world leader or a Vishwaguru. So without further ado, I would like to invite our principal, Professor Dinesh, to on stage for a welcome note.
सबको नमस्कार। Respected Dr. Anand Ranganathan ji, distinguished guests, faculty members, dear students, and everyone present. It's with great pride and joy that I welcome you all to the speaker session of Dakshi's anniversary program, a celebration of India's rich cultural and intellectual heritage. Today, we have the distinct honor of hosting Dr. Anand Ranganathan, a renowned Indian scientist, author, and public intellectual, whose insights and perspectives have profoundly enriched contemporary discourse on India's development and global standing. Sir, I've always seen you in the lively TV discussions. It's so good to see you in person today. Dr. Ranganathan will address us on a topic which resonates deeply with the vision of a resurgent India, reclaiming its rightful place as a leader in knowledge, wisdom, and moral guidance for the world. Sir, your expertise and thought leadership in science, education, and culture make you an ideal speaker for this occasion, and we eagerly await your thoughts on this transformative journey of Bharat. The idea of Vishwaguru Bharat is not a new one. It is rooted in our civilizational ethos. For centuries, India was the global center of knowledge, home to institutions like Dakshi and Nalanda, whose students from across the world came to learn. Swami Vivekananda captured this essence when he said, India will be raised not with the power of flesh, but with the power of the spirit. And not with the power of destruction, but with the flag of peace and love. This timeless vision is now closer than ever to becoming a reality, as India emerges as a global powerhouse in science, technology, economy, and spirituality. The journey towards becoming a Vishwaguru is not just about material progress, but also about upholding and sharing the values of dharma, unity, and universal brotherhood. As Param Pujniya Dr. Gyānparv' aptly said, the greatness of a nation lies in its adherence to its culture and traditions. Dr. Ranganathan's work embodies this idea and has played a unique role in guiding humanity towards a sustainable and harmonious future. India's strides in various fields, science, technology, culture, and diplomacy, are testimony to its growing influence on the global stage. As Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji often says, this is the century of India. We are moving ahead with the resolve to make the 21st century India's century. And to our students, I urge you to draw inspiration from today's session. You are the torchbearers of this vision of Bharat as a Vishwaguru. Immerse yourself in the knowledge that will be shared today and think deeply about how you can contribute to this noble journey. I express my heartfelt gratitude to Sir for taking time to be with us today and for his relentless efforts to highlight the potential of Bharat. I also extend my sincere appreciation to the entire Dakshi team, whose dedication ensures that programs like this inspire and empower all of us. Thank you, and I look forward to an enlightening and thought-provoking address today by the Sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Director and Founder of Dakshi, Mr. Vishwaguru on stage.
सर्वप्रथम यहाँ उपस्थित माता सरस्वती जो कि ज्ञान की देवी हैं और हमारे लिए आधार है हमारे ज्ञान का, उनको सर्वप्रथम नमन। उसके बाद डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन जी को मेरा प्रणाम कि वो उनकी उपस्थिति यहाँ पर इस कार्यक्रम में हो पा रही है। प्रोफेसर दिनेश खट्टर जी को भी मेरा प्रणाम कि वो यहाँ पर आए और उनको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। इसी के साथ साथ आप सभी लोगों को भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि आप दाक्षी के इस कार्यक्रम में ज्ञान पर्व में उपस्थित हैं और डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन के इस लेक्चर को सुनने के लिए इतने उत्साहित हैं, क्योंकि मेरे को सबसे ज़्यादा सा क्रेज आपके लेक्चर का ही था कि थैंक यू फॉर इनवाइटिंग डॉक्टर आनंद रंगनाथन। इसी के साथ दाक्षी का मैसेज आप सभी लोगों तक पहुँचाया जा रहा है अलग अलग माध्यम से। मुझे उम्मीद है कि आप लोग दाक्षी से आगे जुड़ेंगे, जो भी नए जुड़े हैं वो भी जुड़ेंगे। इसी के साथ हम ज़्यादा विलम्ब नहीं करेंगे इस लेक्चर में, तो मैं आप सभी से आग्रह करूँगा कि आप लोग ध्यान से इस लेक्चर का आनंद उठाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
So finally, I would like to invite Dr. Anand Ranganathan on stage.
I think मुझे माइक की जरूरत नहीं है because ऐसे ही आया सुबह माइक से आर्गुमेंट हुई है so it is such a pleasure and an honor to be invited. Thank you, Dakshi, and special thank you to all the youngsters out here. It's a real, as I say, I'm overwhelmed by your welcome. और स्पेशली प्रोफेसर खट्टर, अगर मैं आपको अपनी वाइफ का फ़ोन नंबर दूंगा, अगर वो 5% भी कॉम्प्लीमेंट जो आपने दिए अगर वो दे दें तो ऐसी हालत ना हो।
हम सब एक ही बोट में हैं।
I think you are in motor boat, I am in but it's absolute pleasure. लेकिन मैं ये भी बता दूं, मैंने दक्षी को भी वार्न किया था कि हर जगह जैसे मैं कहता हूँ एक ही बार बुलाया जाता है और जो प्रिंसिपल ऑफिस में हुआ है आधे घंटे में I'm absolutely certain I won't be called again but you definitely you are. तो एक बार एक्चुअली मुझे कोलकाता में I was called to a debate was media as a watchdog, so I went there. In fact Sai was also there. It was a great debate, big fan, and I said legend, yes. And he saved my bottom. I can. We know that. I was hauled up for contempt of court, so thank you, Sai, for saving me. But so I went there and I said, "What are you talking about? Media as a watchdog? You guys are lapdogs. Don't be ashamed. You are slaves of your political masters, and especially in Kolkata, Bengal. You know, you print whatever you're asked to print. You omit." Whatever you're asked to omit, and you are lapdog, and the biggest lapdog is Telegraph. You should be ashamed. बाद में बताया the debate is sponsored by Telegraph. वहाँ से भागा एयरपोर्ट जाते कह रहे थे सर 10 मिनट है फ्लाइट निकलने वाली है जल्दी निकलिए यहाँ पे आपके पीछे. Then very recently I was called to another debate. In fact it was an event. I think MIT University, if I'm not mistaken, and the topic was politics and beyond. So वहाँ गए, and I said, look, aren't we just fed up of completely bashing the living daylights out of politicians? जब देखो उन्हीं का बैंड बजाते रहते हैं. I'm not going to do it today. आज judiciary का बैंड बजाना चाहिए. Because if there is one pillar of democracy that needs to be taken to task, it is the judiciary. Legislature और executive को तो वैसे ही media को गाली देते रहते हैं. Judiciary बच जाती है. In fact, it is judiciary that should be taken to task. 5 crore cases are pending. There is rampant nepotism, collegium system. Judiciary doesn't want others to elect democratically its own people. There are cases, for example, that are 35 years old. There is 34% vacancy in high courts. Overall judicial positions, 24% are vacant. 71% of Indian prisoners are under trials. They have been denied bail, they just locked up. It will take, at the current speed, 324 years to clear our backlog of judiciary. और ये लोग हमें भाषण कराते रहते हैं. It is shameful. There is Punjab and Haryana High Court where 32% of the judges are related to each and every judicial officer in that court. Somebody has to look into this. और खूब वो करके मैं डायस पे आया. Person sitting next to me was the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court. I forgot I had come in my car. I took an Uber and ran. So I am warning you, guys. This might be the last time. But अगर ये आप मुझे बुलाए न बुलाए, मैं आपके कैंटीन के समोसे खाने जरूर आ Coming here is coming home, literally. We love you, sir. Thank you. Because I remember almost every day we used to cut through Karodimal to go to K-Nax and have cha-cha, bhaturas, and we have the corner juice shop, and until I think the powers that be that are at Karodimal realized कि ये तो हमेशा काट के आ जाते हैं, तो वो बंद करा दिया था. I think that's closed. And I did not get admission in Karodimal, so I chose the next best, which was NCPC. And special thank you also to Dr. Saab for this. What a wonderful present out here. कि some naughty boy at SRCC gave me a present. वो भांग का उसने दे दिया. I was carrying it. पुलिस वाले ने कहा क्या ले जा रहे हो भाई? ये तो मुझे अवार्ड मिला है. Doubly thankful that this doesn't look like और उसके नीचे क्या छुपा हुआ है. But to come back to what I've decided to talk about, I think it's something very dear, and you can see, I think the presentation as in when we talk, this will keep on changing the slides. I hope it starts. You can just press the start button. From treadmill to travelator, India towards 2047, opportunities and challenges. Under this broad theme, I thought for the next 1 hour, it's 1:15. And then we'll have a very robust question and answer session. I thought I'll talk about something that I believe is fundamental to success. There is absolutely no doubt that right now where we stand, and I don't know whether you know this, 50% of our population is below 25 years. Yes. It's just all of you, and it's just incredible. So it is an inflection point. But unless we find out what are the fundamentals of success, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to reach where we want to in 2047 as a developed country. It is very difficult to pinpoint, to be honest with you, because what is success? What are the fundamentals? People say it's different for different people, you know. And as the adage goes, success hides failures. You know, when they attain success, in whatever field, they don't want to remember their failures, and if they're politicians, then they certainly don't want to remember their failures. So, what is a fundamental for success? Well, many people would say it's been a 75-year-long journey. In fact, today is our Constitution Day. Today our Constitution was consecrated. So, it's an absolutely wonderful day, very befitting day. Have we been a success? If you were to ask a lot of people, they say, well, no, well, we could have been, but we're not, you know, look where other countries after World War II were and where they are now, Japan, they take the example, Germany, and then they take India's example, and so many wrong things we did. But you look at a few parameters that would broadly define fundamentals of success. For example, in 1947, you know, when we attained independence, our life expectancy was 32 years. 32. Today it is 74 years. 32 years. Can you imagine? In 1947, our literacy rate was 12%. Today it is upwards of 86%. Our poverty rate was 71% in 1947. Today it is 4.5%. And the most troubling data in 1947, when we attained independence, our infant mortality rate was 160, which means that out of every 1,000 babies born in 1947, 160 did not live to see 1 year. Today it is 24. So yes, we've been successful. You know, you look at fundamentals, and when I talk of infant mortality rate, 24 is the India average. There are some states where it mirrors, you know, Eastern, sometimes even Western European countries. In Kerala, the IMR is, I think, 7, which is incredible. So yes, we've been a success. If you were to scrunch the timeline further from 75 years to 10 years, then you look at a few parameters, and I would say we've been a stunning success. For example, in 2014, 29% of our population, Indian population, 29% were multi-dimensionally poor. Now that's a data point that is increasingly considered more effective than just determining who is poor and who is not. Multi-dimensional poverty that includes health, wealth, education, so many other parameters. 29% of our population was multi-dimensionally poor in 2014. Today it's shrunk to 11%. So we have pulled out 250 million Indians in the last 10 years out of multi-dimensional poverty. That's a stunning achievement. if, for example, you look at our GDP per capita in 2014, it was $1,500 US. Today it is $2,500 US. You look at our foreign exchange reserves in 2014 were $300 billion. Today it's touched. In fact, it's surpassed $700 billion, more than double. So many other parameters. For example, you look at the number of airports. It was 74 after 10 years. Today it's 148. 5 metros had 5 cities had metros. Today 20 cities have metros. In 2014, 21,000 kilometers of railway line was electrified. Today it is 63,000. And the most stunning achievement, 60 years prior to 2014, the length of the highways that we had built, in the last 10 years, we built half of that. So that's why I say Nitin Gadkari is not really Our electronic exports in 2014 were $7 billion, today it's $23 billion. And something that the budding financial experts would understand, the AUMs or assets under management for mutual funds in 2014 were 9 lakh crores, today it's 63 lakh crores. Absolutely stunning. Another one, in 2014, India had 350 startups. Today we have 118,000 startups. Yeah. So, 75 years journey, yes, it's been a success. Last 10 years has been a stunning success. And if you were to scrunch the timeline even further, from 75 years to 10 years to 1 year, then it's been a spectacular success. I mean, you look at a few parameters again. Our monthly GST collections have been the highest ever at 2.1 lakh crores very recently. I think June it was. Our exports have been the highest ever at $780 billion. Our manufacturing PMI index has been the highest ever at 59.1. Number of vehicle sales have been the highest ever at 4.1 million units. Number of income tax paying have been the highest ever at 68 million. Number of jobs created have been the highest ever at 47 million. Our inflation has been at a 5-year low at 3.5%, although it has risen a little bit in the last couple of weeks. But I'm talking of in the last 1 year. Our inequality has been at a 5-year low, Gini coefficient of 0.4. Our central government debt ratio is at 5-year low of 53%. And our Sensex has been the highest ever at 83,000. So from success to stunning success to spectacular success. So you say, what is this guy talking about? Pure orai, right? The glass is, half empty, half full. Hey, we are brimming. But then I say, if all this is true and it is true, then why is it that still we have 300 million Indians living on 60 rupees a day? Why is it that still 150 million children are out of school? Why is it that 8 million Indian children are employed as child labor? Why is it that 34% of all children under 5 in India are severely, chronically malnourished and stunted? Why is it that 20% of all poor children have never been vaccinated? Why is it that 18% of all Indians are still, 18 million Indians are still employed as bonded labor? Why is it that 70% India is still without network connectivity? Why is it that only 2% of adult Indians pay tax? In UK it is 66%. And why is it that our rank in hunger index is 111 out of 125 countries? And why is it, despite our spectacular, stunning successes, that our rank in GDP per capita is 136, behind even Sri Lanka and until a few months ago Bangladesh? So clearly there are things that we need to address. Is it a game of two halves, or is it something that we can correct but we fail to correct? Because let's be honest, when I said we are at an inflection point, we have been at some inflection points before. We have 1990 was one inflection point, and these inflection points come once in a generation. Sometimes they skip even a generation; they come once in 2 generations. Now, I don't want to be the case that we are ready for takeoff and the captain informs you we are taxiing on the runway, pirouetted and all ready, propellers whirring, and then the captain says there's some snag and we just roll around and not take off and park ourselves in the hangar. Are we going to do that again? I don't want that to be the case going forward. But I'm afraid the writing is on the wall. That would be the case if we do not take a course correction. How do we take it? And the next 40 odd minutes will concern that. And I believe the reason why India has 2 stories that I just narrated is because we are a confused people. I am being patient, I think I include myself in it. We are confused as a state, what our role should be, and we are confused as a people, as a citizen, what our role should be. And unless we go into the reasons why that confusion has arisen, why that confusion has lasted for 75 years, how we can remove that confusion that shrouds us, almost like our soul that accompanies us wherever we go. I'm afraid we are not going to be a developed country in 2047. So let me begin first with, a kind of an observation that if I were to ask an audience as to what is that single greatest policy, government policy, that has helped our economy grow, most of you will talk about economic liberalization, rightly so. That was the first step after decades that we decided, look, enough is enough, and if we have to move forward, we have to liberalize our economy. That was one policy. License Raj finished in a very large measure. That was another. You would say GST is another. Some would talk about digitization is another. Banking system another. So many other things. But the one common factor in all the answers that one would give, if one were to say one single greatest policy that has helped our economy grow, would be related to economy and finance. That is how our minds are trained. But what if I were to tell you that the one single greatest step that Indian politicians or Indian government has taken that has helped our economy grow the most is actually midday meal scheme. It's got nothing to do with economy. And we don't even realize it. It doesn't enter our mind. It doesn't enter our mind that that is the role what the state should imbibe. That is what the role of the state should be. Every single day, 130 million Indian children go to school. And they go to school, their parents send them to school because they may study, but more importantly, they will get a healthy, nutritious meal, which is mandated by Supreme Court to be at least 430 kilocalories. Millions of parents have seen their children grow healthier, wealthier, wiser because of the midday meal. And it was an idea of K. Kamaraj, who never even went to school. So next time, all of you youngsters think that, oh, we need a educated politicians, a graduate, postgraduate, a PhD, a doctor, an engineer. Think again. Here is a man who has helped our country the most, and he never even went to school. That is why it is important for us to realize what the role of the state is. The role of the state, let me put it in one sentence, is to create a healthier, wealthier, wiser, more flexible, more adaptable workforce. That is all the role of the state is. The role of the state is not to use that workforce. The role of the state is to make that workforce ready for you, the wealth creator, the future wealth creators to use. And I put it to you, I'll go one by one with examples. I'll prove it to you that far from jumping into this role The state has been doing exactly the opposite. The state has not been bothered at all for the last 70 years in creating a healthier, wealthier, wiser, more adaptable, more flexible workforce. Whatever workforce the state has created, and we are now, our workforce is 600 million strong. 600 million is the labor force of India right now. Some say it's 615, some say 585, but average 600. This workforce is what is going to propel this country to a developed country by 2047. But it's not going to do it if we don't realize what is the purpose of this workforce, what is the purpose of the state. The state has been using this workforce, whatever little it has created, healthier, wiser. Let me go one by one. Let's start from the last aspect what I talked about. The role of the state, what it should be and how confused it is. So as I said, we have a workforce of 600 million strong Indians. 44% of that workforce is employed in agriculture, which is an area that contributes only 14.5 to 14% to our GDP. In the West, even in middle-income economies, it is 2 to 3% of the workforce that is employed in agriculture. Out here, we have 250 to 300 million Indians employed in a loss-making sector that is leaching the country's resources dry. From production to purchase, everything is medieval, archaic, and yet we continue to have such a large workforce employed in this sector. Let us divide this sector into 2 or 3 portions. I want to spend some time on this because I think it's very important. And mostly the people from our socio-economic strata in this room, they ignore it because they say, oh, that's not our problem, agriculture is someone else's problem, we don't want to deal with it, without realizing how intertwined it is to our own lives. So when you look at agriculture, I just said 250, 300 million people are involved in agriculture. 81% of the crops and farmers are not insured. This is in this sector. 110,000 farmers have committed suicide in the last 10 years. You tell me one sector of our economy where so many people have committed suicide because of apathy or because of pure misery. No one. And yet, we haven't woken up from our slumber. We haven't addressed the issues that need to be addressed. Did you know that in the last 6 years, 70 million hectares of agricultural farmland of India, almost 40% of our arable land, agricultural farmland, has been destroyed because of either droughts or rains. 40%. It's just unbelievable. And we don't even realize this is the how the production is happening. If you look at what is being produced, 320 million tons of food grains are produced annually in India. Our storage capacity is 145 million tons. More than half we don't have capacity to store. This is the situation. Let's look at, for example, another statistics. Above and beyond, and I'll come one by one to how troubling these, how scary these data are and how we're not doing anything about it. India is the world's second largest producer of sugarcane. Every year we produce 500 billion kilograms of sugar. 500 billion kilograms. Unbelievable. But the amount, as you know, sugarcane is a very water-intensive crop. Absolute water does that. The amount of water required to produce 500 billion kilograms of sugarcane is 1 quadrillion liters. I didn't even know what quadrillion is. I thought things finished at trillion. So I had to go and check up. And I've calculated it in terms of an analogy for you to better understand. That's the amount of water that is present in 10 Ganga Sagar dams. That's the amount of water that is required for us to grow sugarcane, 500 billion kilograms. And sugar prices, they have halved in the last 6 months. Our water table, our capacity per capita consumption has decreased by more than half in the last 40 years. from 3,000 cubic meters in 1984 to 1,200 cubic meters now. According to United Nations, the capacity and required for civilized living per capita is 1,700 cubic. So we are officially uncivilized right now. 3,000 billion cubic feet of Godavari during monsoons goes waste into the ocean. The entire water requirement for the state of Tamil Nadu is 1,800 billion cubic feet. 78% of river water during monsoon goes to the ocean. The Supreme Court has mandated, when are you going to link the rivers? Geologists, engineers, for 30 years, committee after committee has promulgated that we need to link rivers. We need 30 rivers to be linked from drought areas to flood areas. We don't have enough water to grow. And yet, not a single plan has been implemented, except a small portion. One politician got up about 7 years ago, when he was the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. He might become the Chief Minister of Maharashtra again today. He said, we can't go on like this. This is absolutely crazy. You are growing sugarcane, sugar prices have halved the amount of water it is required. So from now on, any farmer who wants to grow sugarcane would have to seek permission. But that rule lasted for precisely 3 months. And I won't name the politician that forced him to renege on that rule. We've given him Padma awards. But the state's role there was, we need molasses, which is a byproduct of sugarcane, for our liquor industry. So let's not worry about the water guzzling capacity of sugarcane. And as a result, you must have seen in Latur, when drought struck about 4 years ago, politicians were cutting ribbons, launching water trains from Mumbai to Latur. They were delighted. Here at last we are sending tanks upon tanks through trains of water to Latur. We should have linked Latur through river linking. But we're just not thinking about this. One man thought about this. And that man was Anand Ranganathan. And he said, we need reforms in this sector. So he brought in 3 farm laws. And those 3 farm laws would have ushered in the kind of development, the kind of reform that this country was crying for. And it would have catapulted us to a middle income economy within 10 to 15 years. What were those reforms? Those 3 reforms were, one, that the farmer should be free to sell his or her produce wherever he or she wants, in whichever marketplace. You can choose a government mandi, APMC, or a private mandi. That is what business is. The hallmark of growth and prosperity is that you give businessmen or businesswomen a choice. Prosperity is dependent purely on choice. It is up to you to choose, but you give the choice. That was the first reform. The second reform was to do away with the emergency provisions of the Essential Commodities Act. Now, this was a draconian act that allowed bureaucrats to change storage, the word storage, to hoarding almost overnight, thereby libeling anyone who was storing agricultural produce non-bailable arrest warrant. So as a result, no businessman or no businesswoman worth his or her salt was prepared to make state-of-the-art godowns to store perishable commodities that otherwise farmers were forced to sell within a period of 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You've seen how routinely farmers would dump tons of their produce on the streets, even milk sometimes, potatoes, and because they were perishable items. But then it was upon the government to say, this is not storage anymore, this is hoarding, arrest that person. Second reform was that provision would go. And the third reform was that contract farming would be introduced. So any person, any company can approach a farmer and say, oh, you got this wonderful land, I will pay you for you to grow this crop and give that crop to me. That is the hallmark of successful business entrepreneurship. All hell broke loose, almost overnight. The country came to a standstill. The country was on standstill for almost a year highways were blocked to Delhi, 5 highways were, people died, protests happened. You saw the commotion and anarchy that enveloped us even on Republic Day when our flag was taken down from there. All that thing happened. The nation suffered an economic loss of 3,500 crores every day for an entire year. And you know what the tragedy was? That these 3 farm laws almost verbatim were in the manifesto of each and every opposition party, including the Congress party. Almost verbatim. But because Modi brought them, they suddenly became black laws. In fact, Congress wanted to do even a tougher version of the first farm reform. They said, we will remove APMC. We will not give farmers a choice. The farmers must go to private mandis. APMCs have no role, it's archaic, Soviet era. But the moment Modi even gave a choice, they suddenly became black. But you know, farm unions, the agriculture, all those documented data is there. How during the Congress they wanted these very farm laws. Agricultural Minister was Sharad Pawar, he wanted Kisan unions, Tikayat, every one of them wanted these laws. But because Modi brought them, so one thing outrage. But it is not that the politicians outraging or union leaders outraging that I mind. Because that's their job. If they don't do it, who else will? Their job is to be hypocritical. What saddened me immeasurably was that the one pillar of our democracy that I held at least to be more respectable than the others, the judiciary reneged on its own. It is when the Chief Justice of India, when he said, all I see are people who are protesting against the farm laws, the 2-3 million. Where are the people who are for the farm laws? I don't see them. In a sense, what he meant was those 250 million farmers should stop whatever they are doing in far-flung areas of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Assam, Odisha, drop their plows and the tractors, stop their tractors and take the nearest bus, train, bullock cart and come to Tilak Marg and sit outside Supreme Court and say we are for the farm laws. Is that how democracy works? No. That is how anarchy works. And exactly after a week after Supreme Court reneged and stayed the farm laws and the farm laws were repealed, the Supreme Court constituted committee came up with its report that more than 80% of farmers and farm lobbies were actually for the farm laws. But then what is the situation out here? The role of the state? We continue to be harboring a sector that is producing 14%, contributing 14% to our GDP, and at the same time giving employment, quote unquote, employment to 250 billion people. This is how inflexible we are. This is the inflexibility. We are not able to adapt this workforce, especially when you know that 50% of the farmers who were recently surveyed said we don't want our next of kin to take up farming. It is so medieval, archaic, loss-making. It is so devastating, and yet nothing has been done. You want to talk of another issue where we talk of flexibility, inducing flexibility in our workforce, the low-hanging fruit as I call them. Let's take the example of tourism. One city in the world, Paris, just one city, attracts 25 million foreign tourists every year. One city, Paris, 25 million foreign tourists. One country, India, 1.4 billion people, attracts 11 million foreign. Paris, 25 million, India, 11 million. Only 30 million Indians are directly employed in the tourism sector. It should be 5 times that. Tourism as a sector contributes only 2.5% to our GDP. It should be 5 times that. We have a country that has a culture that is 8,000 years old. We have hundreds of languages, dialects, we have cuisines, we have 45 World Heritage Sites, and yet we attract only 11 million foreign tourists. Greece, that has half of the World Heritage Sites that we have, attracts 3 times as many foreign tourists. Why? Has anybody asked this question? Has the state, what is the role of the state? Has the state pondered over this low-hanging fruit? I'm afraid not. The Sun Temple at Peru attracts 1.5 million tourists a year. The Sun Temple at Konark attracts 9,000. Nobody's talking. We have UAE. Small country like UAE has more hotel rooms than India. China has 100 times the number of hotel rooms that we have. And what of the rooms that we have? We only decide to fleece the people. So if you were to eat in a restaurant, it will attract 5% GST. But if that restaurant is in a hotel that has hotel rooms, the GST goes up to 18%. Why do we never consider hotels, tourism industry as our modern temples? We only think of universities and dams. Universities and dams don't showcase our culture, don't take people from one end of India to the other, from the oceans to the snow peaks, from the deserts to the greeneries. But we never considered that as the temples of modern India, the hotels. The hotel industry is crying out for reform. The finance minister has acknowledged this. Nothing's been done. Bodh Gaya should be the Vatican of the East. Bodh Gaya, the place where Lord Buddha attained nirvana, enlightenment. That place. We have 535 million Buddhists around the world. That's the Buddhist population of the world. They would be falling over each other, countries like South Korea, Japan, China, to make Bodh Gaya as the Vatican of the East. And yet, the annual municipal budget of the municipal corporation of Bodh Gaya is less than the production budget of the failed movie Adi Purush. 500 crores. That's all. Bodhi tree, under which Lord Buddha attained nirvana, only 0.25 million tourists visited Bodhi. And what is the population of Buddhists around the world? 535 million. The Prime Minister said something is wrong in 2014, so he started the Skill India mission. The idea was that by 2022, we would have 400 million Indians skilled. Because at the end of it, to employ, to have more adapted, flexible workforce, we need a more skilled workforce. 2022 came and went. How many will be skilled? 14 million. The target was 400 million. We skilled 14 million. India has had an apprenticeship act since the time of Jawaharlal Nehru, 1961. Because yes, the idea is right. You need apprentices in order to skill people. Guru Shishya. We have only 0.5 million apprentices in a workforce of 600 million. There is a